So when it comes to single women who are looking for a spouse, there is one skill that I think is the absolute most important for them to have. It can literally be life-saving. It's the first thing that I teach the women in my life, and it is learning how to recognize all red flags. Why? Because red flagged individuals who want to get married are going to get married, in my experience. They are very, very good at finding a spouse, and it is vital that you make sure they don't marry you.
Yes, I agree.
All right.
I like 100% Jilly.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we show you how to find and build a healthy marriage as a Muslim. I'm Zara Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 4 years.
And before we get started, it's a new year. And in this 2026, I wanted to do things just a little bit differently. Instead of covering topics randomly, we're going to be working toward gaining real practical relationship skills as a community, In Shaa Allah. So that by the end of the year, if you've been listening to our podcast, you will know how to build your own happy, healthy home. You will have gained specific skills, right? And the way that we're going to do this is by locking in on one subject each quarter. That quarter's 3 months.
Yes.
One subject for the single people and one subject for the married folks. So along with all of the practical strategies needed to address it. So that if there's 4 quarters in a year, that means you'll have gained 4 skills for each group, In Shaa Allah.
Yes.
So if that sounds good to you, you're welcome to subscribe to our channel and follow along. Also, a side note, we're still both coughing, but I'm feeling a little bit better than you, AJ. So this episode is going to be more a me episode than a we episode. Are you okay with that?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'll try my best to not make you laugh.
Oh, it's already too late. Okay, now let's get started. So this week's episode is entitled Early Signs That You're Talking to a Manipulator. And as you can tell, the subject this quarter for single people is going to be recognizing red flags.
Yes. Recognize red flags and also how to manipulate.
Did you say also how to manipulate?
Yes. Also how to manipulate.
All right. That's an unfortunate side effect that I can do nothing about. We're just going to go ahead anyway.
Once you learn to recognize manipulators, you can learn to emulate them.
That's a red flag by itself. So let's just go right ahead with the topic. Instead of going to do a question from a listener or somebody from the Muslim Marriage subreddit, we're just going to dive right in this week.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So the best way to remember and then recognize the signs that you might be dealing with a manipulator is to first understand the manipulator and why they do what they do. So when I say manipulator, there's many different kinds. The only thing that they have in common is that they're trying to manipulate something out of you, right? Manipulate something out of you. And what they're manipulating out of you is going to depend on their intention.
Mm-hmm.
Intention. The first type of manipulator is trying to manipulate out of you an easy source of validation and reassurance. Right?
Yeah.
So that means they're looking for somebody to provide on-demand validation and reassurance. Another way of saying that is companionship, right? But the aspects of companionship that they're looking for is validation and reassurance. So the people who are in this category tend to be people who are profoundly lonely and are looking for companionship, but also those who are rebounding from previous relationships, right? In order to deal with the separation anxiety, it's just the easiest way to do that is to start a new relationship and have that person be an easy source of validation, reassurance. So that's the first intention. The second intention is to manipulate out of you some sort of tangible gain. Mm-hmm. Right? So that tangible gain could be money, it could be status, it could be citizenship, just something real that they're looking for. That's not an emotional. Yeah. It's not an emotional gain, right? This would include the romance scams. There's so many examples that are presented as documentaries online. Like, if I know you don't watch these, but have you heard of the Tinder swindler?
No.
Tinder swindler is for me and anyone in this field was very fascinating. But that would be categorized as somebody who's looking for money, right? So he would go on Tinder, find women, and extract from them money by using manipulation. There's also for those who are on TikTok, there's that case of Risa Tisa on Who the F Did I Marry? That's the name of her series. But this can also be somebody who was looking for status in his case and money in some pieces, right?
Yeah.
In some bits of her story. So somebody who's looking for a tangible gain. And the way that they get that tangible gain is through manipulation. And finally, and in my opinion, the most important intention is that they are manipulating you because they're looking for somebody to control. And the reason why they're looking for someone to control is to feel more powerful themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the people who are in this category tend to be those who are personality disordered.
Yeah.
And more specifically, although multiple personality disorders can have this feature, in today's episode, we're going to be specifically talking about people who are either narcissistic personality disorder, who have narcissistic personality disorder, or are somewhere on that spectrum, right? Just like as an aside, do you know how personality disorders are diagnosed?
With a doctor.
Yes, with a doctor. They tend to have. So the thing about psychiatry, right, is it's different from other branches of medicine, because the other branches of medicine that deal with the physical body, you can do things like imaging, x-rays, MRIs, etc., to look for something. You can do blood tests. You can look for an actual evidence of something, test it directly, right? Okay, but in psychiatry, you can't really do that. So instead, what they do is it's a lot more subjective. Often what the way to diagnose conditions will be through having criteria. Like for the example of narcissistic personality disorder, there are 9 features. There's like a list of 9 different features, and the criteria can be something like looking an individual needs to have 5 of the 9 features present over a specific period of time, right?
Yeah.
So that's how things are diagnosed. But because it's so subjective, it's not really black and white. Often things will be on a spectrum, right? And there will be people who don't have the official diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. In fact, the number of people who are diagnosed with that is actually very small. It's a relatively small number for how much we talk about it. In our culture, but but there will be a lot of people who exhibit traits, right? But just so that we're all on the same page, for the remainder of this episode, when I say manipulator, I'm referring to somebody who is exhibiting narcissistic traits, specifically this individual.
Okay.
Not the other ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like this. All of this validation.
Yeah.
You're just literally saying yes just to keep from coughing.
There's a different type of narcissist as well, or I guess manipulator. It's the fella who tries to make you like them so that you can introduce them to your friend.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it is.
Have you known people like that?
No, but I see it on like TV shows and whatnot.
On like in
the TV tropes.
Oh, okay. So amongst your friends, that's not something that you guys have done.
No.
I'm very relieved to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to. So hopefully we understand a little bit about the intentions, right? So the reason why they're going to be manipulating you is related to their intention, and the intention we're talking about is the ones who are looking to control you because they have, in this case, narcissistic personality disorder or are somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Now, when we start talking about narcissism, a lot of people have difficulty in understanding what this is, or they'll have an abstract idea of what this is. Given everything that I've read about the topic over the years, the way that I understand it is that people, like, just as a nutshell, right? Like, instead of going through all 9 of the criteria, we're just going to do the TLDR version so that you have an abstract idea of what's going on with this type of individual. In general, it's somebody who has a profoundly low self-esteem, right? So for those who are not on the spectrum, they won't understand this. Like, most of us have insecurities. Most of us have areas of our personality or our bodies or some aspect of who we are that we are insecure about.
Anxieties.
Yeah, right. So that's if there's a normal, that's normal. So people who have narcissistic traits or are somewhere on the spectrum, that's a lot more severe, to the point that they really, really, really do not like who they are, to a degree that you and I cannot understand. As you can imagine, this is very, very hard to cope with. Hating yourself to that degree, or hating who you actually are to that degree, is very hard to cope. It's already hard to cope with just our regular level of insecurity. So the way that they cope with this is that they create, and all of this is happening in the subconscious, right? They create a fictional version of themselves that they actually do like, right?
Yes.
So like a false image, or some people, they call it a mask. But the important thing is that this is a fictional person who I do like, who I like who they are, I like what they have, I like what they're becoming. I like this person, I respect this person. And I'm going to pretend that that's me. That's very hard to do by yourself. To believe in this fictional version of you all by yourself, when everyone else is just talking to the real version of you, which you don't like. And it's very painful when people remind you of this real version of you that you don't like.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're now going to coerce, manipulate people, right? Get people to believe in the fictional version of you, to speak to the fictional version of you as if that's the real you.
Yeah.
And when they do that, that makes you feel very good. And when they speak to this fictional version of you, it provides a supply. Right. So this is what that term narcissistic supply means, is that when people are speaking to this fictional version of themselves. So there's a very famous example of this that we are, if you're listening to this podcast and you exist somewhere, at least somewhere on the internet that you're aware of, there's a certain president of a country right now. I'm not going to name names, but you probably know who it is. But who multiple psychiatrists and multiple professionals have come out and, from afar, based on the evidence available in the public domain, have said confidently this person probably has narcissistic personality disorder. Now, with respect to narcissistic personality disorder, there are two types. There's the overt or grandiose version, and then there's the vulnerable or covert version. This president has most likely the grandiose or overt version, right? And that is exactly what it sounds like. This person has very big ideas of how wonderful they are. That he'll say things like, "I'm the king, I'm the greatest, I'm the best." So
he may also say things like, "I got a small loan of $1 million."
Yes, that is part of the lore, right? But he'll say all these things about how there's nobody like him, literal prizes that he steals, takes, whatever, because all of this goes to feed the idea of his fictional self, right? And if you don't provide supply or feed into this fictional self, and you're somebody who works for him, or God forbid is a citizen under him, he'll get very, very angry. The reason why he gets angry is because that will delegitimize the fictional self. And when you delegitimize the fictional self, you remind them of the actual self. This is why they become so angry. And when he gets angry, he'll fire people to the point that his catchphrase is that you're fired. He'll, if you put you in jail, like there will be consequences, negative consequences. So on the micro scale, so how does that relate to a single person who's out there in the current dating market, right? And if you come across an individual who's somewhere on the spectrum, they're going to do everything they can to get you into a position where you are now feeding into this fictional version of themselves, this mask of themselves that they're holding up for you. And if you don't feed into that, there are consequences, and that those consequences and the degree of the consequences are going to depend 100% upon how far up the spectrum that they are.
Yeah.
So the further up the spectrum an individual is, especially if he has other personality disorders, things can become more violent. Unfortunately, it can be a lot more abusive, right? So that's why it's important to be able to understand on a deep level what's going on with these individuals, and why they are, why they're talking to you, why they want to get to know you, why they want to marry you. Because once you understand these things, the way that they present themselves and all of the signs and red flags associated with it will be simple to understand. It'll be just puzzle pieces fitting into a grander picture.
Yeah.
Instead of a list of random information.
It might even be a puzzle about a grand piano.
Very interesting. All right.
Because it's the grand picture.
Right. It sounds instrumental
to our success. Wow.
All right, we'll stop. So that brings us to what exactly are these signs, the early signs, right? So again, anyone who's worked with me, if you've listened to our podcast, I really hate listing random signs or random red flags because they don't make sense. Like, it's hard to remember. And when you don't really understand how they fit into the bigger picture, most people excuse them away anyway.
Yeah.
Right? If you're invested in an individual, you feel connected to them, you're invested in the picture they're painting for you of this marriage, you're going to start to excuse away the red flags despite everything that you know. Therefore, we're not going to just do random lists. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to paint a picture of how the talking stage will go with somebody who is exhibiting narcissistic traits or is a narcissist. All right, so first of all, I'm going to ask you, do these individuals want to get married? Like a typical narcissist who is Muslim.
Yeah.
Are they going to want to get married?
I would think so if they're Muslim.
You're correct, right? Whether or not they want to get married is going to follow along with their religious beliefs. So and it's important that you know that there are plenty of narcissists who have strong religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one does not exclude the other. So those who, grew up in a certain upbringing or hold certain religious values understand that if I'm going to want a companionship, it has to be in the context of marriage. So you will find that in the Muslim community, those who are narcissists or narcissistic traits, who have narcissistic trait, and this occurs in every community, including the Muslim community, they will want to get married. So because they actually want to get married, what does that mean? That means that they will be committed. They will be showing all of the signs of commitment. So that means if you're in a talking stage with somebody and they are talking to you on a regular basis, they're with a lot of consistency, that doesn't, and you don't really have much doubts about where this is going. That's all well and good, but it's important to know that doesn't exclude them from them being a narcissist.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. So, do these individuals want to get married? A lot of the time, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And those who want to get married, oftentimes do. They're very good at finding spouses. Probably better than me.
Persuasive.
They're very, very persuasive. And those who have taken my dating app strategies webinar will know that means that if they're actually committed, that means that when they write a bio for their dating app, it will be super thought out, right? It'll be something that clearly took longer than 5 minutes to write. Even if it looks like it's written by AI, they will go back and they will edit in their own information. It'll be high effort.
Yeah.
That makes sense? So that means their bio will be relatively high effort. Anyone who wants to get married, whether for good reasons or bad reasons, will have a high effort bio. Okay. So that's whether or not they want to get married. So let's say you meet somebody, they swipe right on you, or their parents introduce you to them, or somehow they meet you, and you've entered a talking stage with them. They are now in your inbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not talking to you. One of the first questions that most people ask each other about is timelines. They ask about, well, what are your intention? And they'll say, my intention is for marriage. Okay, how soon do you want to get married? So how soon do you think narcissists are looking to get married, or people who have narcissistic traits?
Immediately.
Yeah, that's so faster than average.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more often than not, they're looking for a pretty quick turnaround. You'll find that they are trying to speed up the steps, so that if you met them on a dating app, they're looking for your phone number very quickly. If you met them through a parent or a friend, they're just really looking to speed up all of the steps very, very quickly. And oftentimes they're going to disguise speeding things up with religion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They'll say, okay, so because of our religion, I don't want to delay, which is correct oftentimes, but they'll say, I don't want to delay anything. I want things to move along quickly. I'm looking to get married within the next 3 months. I'm looking to get married. I want to speak to your dad. I want to speak. So you will feel rushed.
Yeah.
Right? It will be going faster than you are comfortable with, is the important thing. Why is that? Well, because when they are in a talking stage with you, they can't actually come up to you and say, hi, I have a really poor sense of self-esteem, and I would really like you to speak to this mask that I've created. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to control what you do, what you say, so that you will speak to this mask that I've created. And also a side benefit is when I control somebody, it makes me feel really, really good about myself. Like if somebody came up to you with that very honest pitch, no one's going to be like, yeah, sign me up.
That's a crazy pitch.
It's an accurate pitch, right? So instead what they do is they're going to have to pretend, right? They're going to have to pretend. These are individuals who have been pretending their entire lives, right? So for many of us, we are our honest selves with our siblings, with our friends, with the people around us. We pretend a little bit when we go to work. We have our work version of ourselves, but generally we are ourselves. Even when we're in the searching for a new spouse, we're pretending a little bit, but not to a huge degree. These are individuals who have been pretending in front of every single person in their lives. And they have a different version of themselves for every single person in their lives. And none of these versions are the real version of who they are.
Yeah.
So they are a lot better at pretending than you and I.
Yeah.
However, pretending is exhausting.
Yeah.
So what that means is that they're going to need you to speed up the process, because they can't pretend for, in my experience, longer than 3 months.
Yeah, they get tired.
Yeah, so at 3 months is about when the mask starts to fall off and you start to see a little bit of their actual behaviors, right? So this is part of the reason why they want to really, really speed up the progress. I've seen some who the mask starts to fall off at the 1 month mark, but on average, the ones who stretch it out is around 3 months.
Yeah.
This is the reason why I always recommend that if you are searching for a spouse, you try to wait, keep everything halal, of course, and you do the rest of your vetting process. But that's why I always recommend wait at least 3 months to make sure that if you missed something, that you will allow enough time for the mask to start to fall off, and you'll be able to have an accurate picture of who this person is. It's not foolproof, but it helps, right?
It helps.
Yeah. So that's why the timeline is sped up. So my next question is, when someone is in a talking stage with them, right? How does it feel? Like, have you ever come across somebody who or thinking back in hindsight is a narcissist?
Have I ever met someone who I thought was a narcissist?
Yeah, in those multiple talking stages with those lovely sisters.
Probably. But I don't think I would have talked with them long enough to understand that they were a narcissist.
Okay. All right. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, if just based on everything that we said, so let me tell you my experience, and the experience based on what I've read and what other people have explained. So what it feels like to be in a talking stage with somebody who is a narcissist. Two things. First is that it's going to feel super intense. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but always intense.
Yeah.
Right? And second, it's going to be confusing. It's going to be confusing. When somebody is in a talking stage with somebody who's narcissist or has some sort of narcissistic traits, because you're being actively love bombed, and especially if you are at a vulnerable moment in your life, you're going through something intense, right? That makes you emotionally a little bit more raw, a little bit more susceptible to being receptive to hearing the words that they're telling you, right? That's why they're the soothing words that they're telling you. And they're very, very good at pointing out what are the exact words that you need to hear. Through this love bombing process. It's going to feel a lot more intense connection, right? You're going to feel powerfully seen and understood. You're going to feel, they're very good at making you feel super special, like you're the only one in the world for them, that you're just this unique it girl, or you're this unique it guy.
Yeah.
So it's very intense. However, because of especially if the talking stage goes beyond 3 months and they start adding other aspects into there, which we'll talk about in further episodes, right? Like all of the different tactics that they use, because they start to add these tactics into there of the devaluing and the mean jokes and all the things that they do. You'll have these mixed messages, right? And whenever you have these mixed messages, you start to, especially if you have a little bit of anxious attachment issues, anxiety, you're going to have a lot of anxiety, right? You'll find that a lot of your thinking throughout the day, just in your day-to-day, is going to be on this relationship. And at its height, right? At its height, as it progresses, I've seen some numbers quoted around 80% of just your thinking and then throughout the day is just about, well, what did that mean, and what does this mean, and is it going anywhere, and just trying to think your way to a solution, just trying to think your way just trying to think your way to clarity, because you're confused. Everything is a little bit confusing,
discombobulated.
So in the very beginning, especially in the first few weeks, there won't be much confusion because they are very bent on getting married to you. But as time goes on, especially after that 3-month mark, even if you're married after the 3-month mark, eventually the other stages of a typical relationship with a narcissist will start to come in, especially the devaluing and the discarding and all of those different stages that you've heard about. Even married, you'll be confused. You'll be thinking, like, what does this person want from me? Married or not, after the 3-month mark, there's going to be confusion, right? So those tend to be the two general feelings. So either number one, super intense, either happy or anxiety, and number two, just confusion, right? Another question that we have for trying to understand the profile of the narcissistic talking stage with a narcissist or somebody who has these traits is, will they be religious? Like, is this somebody who's going to be actively practicing?
Practicing, sure, but I don't think practicing all aspects of the religion, because I think if you're practicing all aspects of the religion, then right off the bat you would be treating others with respect, or like with no narcissism involved or no manipulation. It should just be honest and straightforward. So yeah, a person could be praying 5 times a day, reading the Quran, but if they're not reflecting on that or taking in that information, then they could still manipulate people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a subtle difference. See, when you know a person, you're able to see a person over time, right? And you have the right information, then you will be able to start to discern whether or not this person has narcissistic traits, right? But in that beginning of a talking stage, when you don't, and especially when you're limited to just messages, text messages, and a limited number of meetings, and you can't see them in multiple settings, it's harder to see. But yes, absolutely, this person can present as religious, but the quality of the way in which they're presenting as religious is different from somebody who doesn't have these traits. For instance, they're not advertising that they're religious, right? So somebody who is not narcissist, who is somewhat happy with who they are, has no desire to show you who they are, right? They just are themselves, and you can just see of it what you will. So they're not actively advertising either on their social media or in their interactions with you that I'm religious. Hey, I'm very religious. Whereas somebody who is exhibiting narcissistic traits, it could, whether it's their real version of themselves or just this fictional version of themselves, often the fictional version of themselves that they want to hold up to you is of super religious. This is somebody who is respected in the Muslim community, and who you should respect too, right? Because they are super religious. And the way that they'll advertise that is often by dictating to you that subtly or directly that you are not religious enough.
Yeah.
So that's the impression that you'll get in interacting with them, that you will somehow feel inadequate because they're subtly telling you that, by the way, this thing that you're doing is wrong. Or they'll say, by the way, you should be doing this. There's a lot of you should be, which is a lot of us, for somebody we just met, we shy away from dictating to them how they should be in their religion, right? So it will be, that tends to be how their religiosity will present. And I've said this so many times, but it's important that you understand that being religious by itself doesn't automatically make someone safe, right? Because that's a misconception that a lot of women have. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the religious manipulator in more detail in one of the episodes we cover over the next 3 months. Next question, right, is how will they interact with your family?
Yeah.
Somebody who's a narcissist, how are they going to interact with the family of the person they're in a talking stage with?
Either very sparsely or very intensely.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good summary. But what I've seen over the years is that they will be super charming, especially in the beginning, to family members. Again, don't forget, this is someone who's been pretending their entire lives and who's better at pretending than you are. So they will be super charming to, especially the people who are the opposite gender. So if this individual is a man, he will be super charming to the women in your family. And if it's a woman, to whatever degree that she can be, will be charming to the men in your family, right? That tends to be the case. Often, the people who are the same gender, especially for the narcissistic men, the people who are the same gender in your family, so that your brother is your father, will be able to spot them. They'll be able to spot them more clearly than you can.
Yeah.
Especially with repeated meetings as time goes on.
Yeah.
But because the things that they can spot are subtle, depending on the skill of the narcissist, depending on how far up they are on the spectrum. Because when the further they are up on the spectrum, the more charming, the more sophisticated they are. It'll be hard for your male family members to be able to articulate what exactly. So they may even shy away. I've seen so many cases where brothers and fathers come out and like, you know what? There was something off about him, but I couldn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could tell you what that is. Like, he ate the beans straight from the can.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, he bought the can himself, so.
That was weird.
His own can.
He fished it out of his pocket.
Was there? Well, at least it wasn't loose beans. They were in a can.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
This one guy had spaghetti in his pockets.
Just loose spaghetti?
Yeah. He thought it was like his mom's spaghetti or something like that.
M&M?
He got nervous and it just started falling out.
All right, we need to stop or I'm going to start coughing. But yeah, so many times I'll hear the client will tell me their brother or their father will say there was something off about him, but I couldn't put my finger on it, so I didn't want to say anything. So does that make sense? So what that means is that if there is a question and whether or not there's a question in the back of your mind, you should ask. Go to the members of the opposite gender, like the same gender as this individual you're in a talking stage with. Go to those members of your family and ask them, so what did you think? Right? Because those of us who are the same gender can spot things that the other gender can't.
What's the scoop?
Yes, exactly. And if they feel hesitant, especially if you're super happy and everything else checks out and the family wants this to go forward, if they're super hesitant, a little bit hesitant, just be willing to pry a little bit. That's what I would do, right? Be willing to just say it's okay, whatever you say, your opinion matters a lot to me, and I just really want to know what you think. I cannot tell you the number of women who could have been, say, very difficult situations had they had the chance to go and ask their brothers and fathers in more detail. So that's how that they will present, right? So that's the general summary of how the talking stage will go with somebody who's a manipulator. Does all of that make sense?
Yeah, if you do have a family member, like a little brother or something, that is hesitant, all you really got to do is today, Junior.
All right.
And his hesitance will go away instantly.
Yeah,
it might be replaced by anger.
A little bit. I know I'm angry just thinking about it. But that brings us to the end of this episode. In Shaa Allah, hopefully everything that we said makes sense. Even if you're not sure whether or not somebody that you are talking to may be a manipulator, my advice is always err on the side of caution. Yeah, you don't want to find out the hard way. There are so many wonderful men and so many wonderful women that it is always better to miss out on 10 good men than to spend a long time on one not good man.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And the same for women. It's better to miss out on 10 good women than it is to spend any kind of time on the wrong women.
Yeah.
Right? So just be liberal with the walking away when you are searching for a spouse, right? Hopefully all of that makes sense, inshallah. I know we ran a little bit over time, but I think this was a very important episode and a good one to get started with. If you are a woman and you are in this phase of searching for a spouse and you're a little bit confused about what you're supposed to talk about in the talking stage, especially to be able to assess compatibility, feel free to download my compatibility guide in the description below. And we talked a little bit about the webinar, the dating app strategies that actually work webinar. I think those have been going really, really well, but I want to start talking about other topics. So we're only going to do 2 or 3 more webinars, right? Before I'm going to end those, inshallah. So if that is something that you're interested in, you can find the link in the description below for one of the last few webinars, the dating app strategy webinars. Yeah. And finally, if you found anything that we've said useful, or that you would like to follow along this year, inshallah, with this journey of gaining these specific skills, especially the red flag skills, then feel free to subscribe to our channel. If you have subscribed to our channel, we really appreciate you. You're amazing. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. That's everything. Is there anything I'm missing?
No.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to end this so we can continue coughing.
Yeah.
All right. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, and have a wonderful week, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.